Hello, and welcome to Kloeker's Education Foundation, where we provide quality content for amazing teachers and students. If you're joining us from a previous video or previous series, welcome back. And if this is your first time, we're glad you're here. This is our World History series, and this lesson is on Ancient Greece, the Classical Era. Before we begin, don't forget to check out the links in the description below for resources and a set of free guided notes to go along with this lesson. Let's dive in. The Classical Era begins with the Iron Age in around 500 BC. Iron is generally stronger than bronze and is more easily accessible, and those river valley civilizations which we spoke about, they were geographic centers and used advanced military techniques to conquer those nearby groups, and the technology spread from those geographic centers. Each civilization differed in how it operated socially, culturally, economically, and politically. Governments became more complex as empires emerged with bureaucratic structure, and empire became the predominant form of political organization. Military technology advanced and improved the capacity to control enemy territory and conquer enemy forces, increased social stratification with the emergence of patriarchal and social systems, meaning that the separation between social classes grew. Future civilizations copied and emulated those that were past. They used them as building blocks to build on, to be more innovative and more creative and more powerful than those previous. And trade routes expanded with the establishment of routes such as the Silk Road, stretching all the way from ancient Rome to the Yellow River Valley. All classical empires develop a patriarchal social system where women have little political influence, but women still played a huge role in society and civilization. Women ran households, they shared in family businesses in the Western world. In Greece, children were primarily educated at home by the mothers, especially young girls. Children contributed to the family's economic venture. They were raised within the family business, especially if it was agricultural, because more children meant more hands on the farm to help. And families were the basic social unit in every classical civilization. They were the building blocks for great societies. So now let's look into some of the complexities of the ancient Greek civilization during the classical age. As we spoke about, and we have a whole video, the geography plays a huge role in the development of ancient Greece. The mountainous terrains, the vast oceans and islands. It provides protection from invasion, but it also prevents the ability to launch invasions into foreign territories. Transportation was difficult and thus relied on the sea and traveling, and the mountains and seas made the growth of city-states more predominant. These city-states known as polis in Greek. We've spoke about the first Greeks and their major influence on ancient Greek culture, the Minoans and the Mycenaeans, how the Minoans had their capital in the ruins of Knossos, home of the Labyrinth and the Minotaur, and developed extensive trade networks, not just with ancient Greece, but also with Syria and Egypt. We spoke of the Mycenaeans, who, according to Homer, were involved in the Trojan War and attacked the ancient city of Troy in 1250 BC in Asia Minor. However, the constant fighting between the city-states and natural disasters leads to the collapse of their civilization, the rise of the Dorians, and Greece would enter a dark age, recorded in few stories of the Iliad and the Odyssey. This is where the ancient Greek values Homer encouraged, such as courage and honor, would become universal Greek themes for the civilizations. The rough geography of ancient Greece saw the establishment of the Greek city-states, the polis. Now, these city-states operate very differently based on where they're at. Some are monarchies, aristocracies, oligarchies, and even a few democracies. Democracy, of course, is where a government is controlled by its citizens either directly or indirectly, like ancient Athens. However, most of these Greek city-states were oligarchies, ruled by a few, based on wealth, social status, or military power. And in the cases of democracy, such as Athens, it was limited democracy. Only free male Athenian citizens over the age of 30 could participate. They were the only ones who could own property, have the right to vote, or hold public office. In ancient Greece, there are two city-states that dominate the political landscape, and they are bitter rivals. And this is the rivalry of Sparta versus Athens. Now, Sparta had an iconic and strong military with the Spartan soldiers. When they conquered new lands, they enslaved those that they conquered and forced them to work on the farm. Male childhood from the age of 7 and up was spent in military training, and many children died in that training. Sparta was led by two kings who had equal say in the policy and decisions of Sparta. Now, this meant when allies would ask Sparta for military intervention, it was a very standard response that they would send one soldier to go and assist the allies, because that's all that was needed. Sparta did not have walls protecting the city because they believed the soldiers and the people of Sparta were the greatest defense. And Sparta was very isolationist. They did not trade often with neighboring city-states. They actually believed that money corrupted the soul, and they banned money, so everything within Sparta was solely on a barter system. There was no money. Now, Athens, on this other hand, Athens did not have a strong military like Sparta. They focused on the navy because they were closer to the sea. The democracy has not been firmly established within ancient Greece, and in ancient Sparta it is more of an oligarchy that is ruled by aristocrats, and they encourage people to vote for the decisions. Because of this faux democracy, we saw lots of social division between the wealthy and the poor, but we do see they utilize items like the public assembly and debate where citizens could discuss the major issues of Athens. Athens and Sparta have been rivals for a very long time, and while it takes them a while to eventually go to war with each other, there is a unifying moment where ancient Greece will come together to defend themselves, to defend the homeland against a massive invasion launched by the Persian Empire with Darius and Xerxes. These Greek city-states are forming an alliance in order to fight the Persians, and after several Greek victories in combat, there is a new sense of freedom and confidence with the unity of ancient Greece. They'll form what's known as the Delian League. 140 city-states will come together, and Athens will enter into a new golden age of prosperity after the war. Now, during this golden era, this is when we see Pericles and the democracy in Athens firmly established. With the direct democracy, they strengthen their navy, they build up their overseas trade and the networks, and they use this money to fund works like theaters and the Parthenon. And this is where we see basically the birth of Greek art in that sense, and drama on theater stage. It is during this golden era that we see an emphasis on individuals with rights and responsibilities. We see the popularization of the athletic competition known as the Olympics. the application of logic and science, literature, with philosophers on the scene like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, and we see the construction of the monuments, such as the Parthenon. Ancient Greece is going to serve as some of the basic building blocks for the judicial system of the West, popularizing items like trial by a jury of your peers, innocent until proven guilty. That is, of course, originating from Hammurabi's code, but it is a point of cultural diffusion that it made it to ancient Greece, to ancient Rome, and is still even applied to this day. Popularizing items like the burden of proof rests with the accuser rather than the accused, that a person should be punished only for actions and not for thoughts, and that if any law seemed unreasonable or grossly unfair, that it could be set aside or challenged. Ancient Greece is going to contribute a lot to math and science as well, everything from balance and proportions to calculating the size of the earth. Yes, ancient Greece knew that our earth was a sphere. They knew how large it was within a couple hundred miles, latitude, longitude, geometry, the value of pi, the invention of the sundial to accurately tell time. All of these were inventions that contributed to math and science. Probably the two most notable was Archimedes, who is considered the greatest thinker of this era, a mathematician, a physicist. He was very instrumental in the principle of the lever, probably one of the greatest contributions to physics. He very famously said that he could lift the whole world if he was given a large enough stick. And Pythagoras, who of course you may have heard of the Pythagorean theorem in your algebra or geometry class. Yes, that was a contribution of him to the sciences. Alexander the Great is going to unify ancient Greece when he ascends to the throne of Macedonia at 20 when his father passes away. He'll conquer ancient Greece, Asia Minor, work his way down to Egypt, Mesopotamia, Assyria, Babylonia, across Persia, and even across the Indus River. Now, Alexander conquers what many consider to be the known world and did all of this in only about 12 years from the point where he ascended the throne to when he died, amassing one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. Now, this is the end of the ancient Greek culture and a birth of a new era, the Hellenistic age or the Hellenistic era, where we have the blend of ancient Greece and a blend of the Egyptians and Mesopotamia and even those philosophies and ideas out east into India and Persia. This is a blend of this entire region. The known classical world has come together under the Hellenistic age. Advancements in trade and astronomy, technology, math, philosophy, art, all of this is done under his empire. Unlike the classical era, Greece will not be the hub or the center for all this learning. It'll be Alexandria in ancient Egypt, which will of course be named after Alexander the Great, and will serve as that hub until 150 BC when it's conquered by the Romans, and shortly after ancient Greece will be conquered by the Romans as well. That wraps up our lesson. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check us out on Teachers Pay Teachers, YouTube, Rumble, and the Kloeker Education Foundation website. We have a ton of resources and a ton of free videos for you there as well. This was just a broad overview of ancient Greece. For a more in-depth look, we have videos on the geography of ancient Greece, the Athenian classical era, the Persian War, and of course, Alexander the Great. But if you're feeling brave and courageous, you can skip to our next unit. Ancient Rome. They copied the gods, they improved the weapons, built a bigger and better empire, and left all of the mythology behind. The rise from tribe to republic to empire and into the history books to serve as a building block for the rest of the West. All that and more is just a click away on your screen. I'll see you there.